My name is Donnelly Donaldson. I was 24 years old when I went missing on July 11th, 2022 in Kingston, Jamaica. It was the day after my birthday. With my little black bag clutched tightly in my arms, my mother last saw me when I went into my boyfriend Noel's BMW. He is a Jamaican police officer who I had been with for 3 years. I told her that I would be back the next day. I couldn't even imagine what was waiting on me there. We got to his apartment and spent time together as we always did. But something sinister was brewing. At times, his baby mother would come to his place when I was there to fight me. How does she know? At 8 a.m. the next day, I called my mother. I told her to feed my dog China and that I will be home soon to walk her myself. Little did I know those were the final words that she would hear from me. My brother from Cleveland called at around 4 p.m. and we spoke briefly. He called my mother after and told her to call me to take her to the hospital. I didn't pick up that call. When I didn't return home, my mother was worried. Something truly sinister had happened to me. As the night dragged on, she became overwhelmed with fear because my phone was now off. Noel called my mother around 11:30 p.m. He told her that I had left with a friend. That was a lie. My mother caught him in many more lies surrounding my disappearance. He spoke about a phone call that I had with my father to pick up birthday money from MoneyGram. The thing is, that phone call happened at 1 p.m., long after he claimed that I had left his house. I didn't get the chance to enjoy my Earthstrong properly or even collect the money my father sent. My life was robbed, and now I watch in silence. Please, don't forget me.
Normal looking photos that have a disturbing backstory. The girl in this photo was arrested for torturing and killing animals. She filmed herself doing it and even posted it online. She hanged her dogs by their collars, nailed them to walls, and even shot them with an airsoft gun. She would then cut them open and rip out their internal organs. This sweet looking little girl is Jeannie, also known as the Wild Child, who spent the first 13 years of her life chained to a chair, and this photo was taken moments after she'd just been rescued. This normal looking scenic painting features the ocean with the night sky. However, it was painted by Adolf Hitler, whose dream in life was to become an artist. However, he failed the entrance exam to art school and ultimately gave up. This photo of Richard Hickok and Perry Smith shows two murders after hearing that they've been sentenced to death. They murdered a family of 4 and planned to rob them, but they found nothing worth stealing except for a mere $50. The girl on the left is wearing a wire. The girl on the right has no idea. Together they stabbed one of their friends to death, and the girl on the left confessed to the police and is now cooperating with them. Besides the pixelation, this looks like a couple getting married surrounded by their loved ones. However, all the children in this photo were horribly physically and mentally abused until a couple of them managed to escape. Normal looking photos that have a disturbing backstory. These pieces of yarn in a first grade classroom are the trajectories of the bullets fired by the Sandy Hook shooter in 2012, who killed 20 children and 6 adults. The reason that the angles are pointing downward is quite disturbing when you think about it. Dutch teenager Gary Slock and his mother Petra posted this photo to Facebook moments before their plane was shot down by Russians, killing all 298 people aboard. At first glance, it looks like this woman is resting peacefully, until you notice that that's a car roof twisted around her like bed sheets. She jumped from the top of the Empire State Building and happened to land in this very graceful, peaceful way. This is the last photo ever taken of 18-year-old Jolie Callan, who after this photo was taken was shot twice in the head and pushed off of the cliff by her ex-boyfriend. While this may seem like a normal family photo, just below the wife is a rattlesnake about to strike her arm. She was bitten and survived, but the dog died. This photo shows a man and a woman on the 70s game show, The Dating Game. The man in this photo who won the date with the woman is Rodney Alcala, a famous serial killer. Cheryl Bradshaw, the woman, found him extremely creepy and after the camera stopped rolling, refused to go on a date with him, possibly saving her life.
You've seen some crazy fraud cases, but nothing like the welfare queen. Meet Linda Taylor. Taylor was born as Martha White in 1926 to a white mother and a black father. By the way, these relations were illegal in her state, Tennessee. White relatives shunned her as a result, but that didn't stop her from being forced to try and pass as white often during her childhood. Taylor's racial ambiguity allowed her to commit an extensive amount of fraud by changing identities with the switch of a wig, beginning in early adulthood. If she wore an afro, she was black. Straight hair could make her white, Latina, or Filipina if she pleased. When her story first broke, there was proof of 27 identities, 31 addresses, 3 social security cards, and 30 wigs. These numbers only increased. Some even alleged she was a kidnapper and bought kids on the black market to collect welfare, and her biography suggests she was murderous. Taylor was such a distinguished con artist that the original 31 charges brought against her was just child's play for her. It just so happened that she was Linda Taylor when she was arrested in 1974. Her charges were brought down severely with the help of a great lawyer she could afford. She only served 3 years in prison for this situation. The movie Claudine was released in 1974 too, in efforts to push back against the welfare queen stereotype, even as it was still emerging. But Taylor's case amplified a stereotype on Black women that's been hard to erase. She died in 2002 in obscurity.
At 2:30 a.m. on October 8, 1985, 18-year-old Amy Wheeler tried to walk into her dorm room at Northeast Mississippi Community College, but the door was locked. Assuming her roommate, 18-year-old Stacy Pinnell, was asleep, she knocked on her suite mate Stephanie Alexander's room so she could walk through the shared bathroom. Stephanie answered the door, and she and Amy walked through the bathroom into the room to find Stacy lying on her bed. Her left leg was up on the bed, her right foot was on the floor, and her underwear was pulled down to her knees. Upon further review, they realized that Stacy was heavy and cold and there was blood all over the pillow. Amy immediately ran out to get help, but when the dorm mother got to the door from the hallway, it was locked again. When she finally got in, she saw Stacy in the same position, but this time her underwear was pulled down to the calf and it was only on one leg. Before, it was around her knees and on both legs. Police get there and pronounce Stacy dead. They found her wooden drill rifle on the floor with a towel on the barrel end, and the handle was full of blood. Given her position, they assumed she was sexually assaulted too. But when they got the autopsy back, they were shocked to learn that was not the case. She was just positioned to look like that. So investigators start questioning everyone, and they became very suspicious of her ex-fiance, Ben Cox, but there was nothing to place him there. All the blood found in the room was determined to be Stacy's, and there were no fingerprints on the weapon, so they couldn't arrest him. So Stacy's case went nowhere until almost a year later. One of the detectives attended a seminar in which a master interrogator talked about a new technique where he uses body language and eye movements to determine if someone's lying. He was from the Chicago area. His name was Stephen Rhodes, and he was called the human lie detector. This guy was good. Mississippi detectives needed something, so they asked Stephen to come down and speak to all the witnesses and especially the suspect. He agreed, and first up, he interviews Stacy's roommate, Amy. As he's talking to her, he says he senses no sign of deception. Next, he interviews the suite mate, Stephanie Alexander. Again, she's walking through her day. He said she's not lying, she's being completely honest. And then they get to the part where Amy wakes her up and they walk into the room to find Stacy. Stephen starts to sense something's wrong. He thinks she may be withholding some information, so he makes her walk through it again. And this time, she says when Amy wakes her up, she goes back into the room. Alarm bells are going off. So he starts asking the really tough questions, and before she can even get a word out, he says, "No, do not lie to me. I know you're about to lie." This goes on for 2 hours. Finally, Stephanie says, "Are you a mind reader?" Stephen says, "Yes, I am." And she responds, "Then you already know I did it." Chilling. Turns out he is not a mind reader. He could tell she was lying based on her eye movements. This is called neurolinguistics programming. Simply put, usually when you're recalling information or trying to think of something, your eyes shift one way. When you're getting creative and coming up with a story, your eyes shift the other way. Like I bet throughout this TikTok, I've been looking that way because I'm thinking of stuff, you know? So Steve started the interview with baseline questions. What's your name? What's your phone number? Where are you from? And he noticed with every answer Stephanie gave, her eyes shifted left. When he started asking about the murder, her eyes shifted right. So before she could even answer a question, he saw that her eyes shifted right, so he would stop her and say, "You're about to lie to me." This technique is fascinating, is it not? Stephanie later recants her confession, but in episode 56, we get into all the details of all the other suspects, Stephanie's motive, and her trial. Download now with the link in the profile or search for People Are the Worst in your favorite podcast platform.
Happy Sunday, guys. I hope you're having a great Sunday. And guess what, Florida? You're up on the board this morning. So get out your puke buckets, hold on to your butts, and trigger warning on everything, because this case is just crazy.
So this is 21-year-old Haley Ann Rayborn, and she's an eyelash extension enthusiast as well as an attempted murderer, allegedly for educational purposes only, but let's get into it.
On June 9th, Haley right here was booked into the Hernando County Jail down there in Florida for attempted murder of an unborn child. So back on April the 12th, a woman who's 11 weeks pregnant contacts the Hernando County Sheriff's Office, and she's like, "Look, I need some help because I think there's a witch that's trying to solicit somebody to murder my unborn child." So now I'm going to need y'all to pay real close attention. I'm going to need you to close your lips and turn on your ears, okay? Everybody follow along. So according to the victim, her ex-fiance contacts her and says, "Listen, this Haley chick, she's already contacted me. She wants me to give you a abortion pill." Go ahead and use your rhyming words, kids, because that is content that TikTok is definitely removing if you say that word. A abortion pill. She wants me to sneak it to you, okay? But I'm not going to do it. But I got all these messages and stuff. What do you want me to do? The ex-fiance of the victim turns over the messages, and it's, from Snapchat, of course it is. And it's like, look, here's what I want you to do. Here's when I want you to do it. Here's what I want you to do it with. Come by and pick up this pill, and I'm going to pay you for your services. He said, all I need you to do is come up here and pick up this pill. I ordered it offline. I got it legally. I need you to slip it to her, okay? Because the father of that child used to be my man, and she's my rival now, and I'm going to take her down. That ain't exactly the way it was said in the court papers, but that's what was said in my mind, Like, I'm going to take her down. Come get this pill. When someone like Haley, who ain't got two brain cells rubbed together, come up with a murder for hire plot, they always try to do the best. They pick the best person, the best method, and the best payment. So what did Haley choose to pay the man that she wanted to murder this child? You know what she chose? AirPods. So Haley right here ain't got two brain cells to rub together or any money, allegedly for educational purposes only, because do you know how she was going to pay this man to slip this lady that pill? She was going to pay him with AirPods. And we're not even talking about the good AirPods. We're talking about the first generation AirPods that don't have any of the noise canceling. We're talking about the ones you can get on Mike's Merchandise down there in Huntsville, Alabama off the Parkway for $19.99. Those AirPods. And she thought it was going to work. Number 1, don't commit murder. Number 2, don't plan your murders on your electronic devices. That's when you get your paper and pencil out, because if you do, you're always going to get caught. And number 3, unless you're paying these people cash, $100,000+, they are always going to tell on you, and especially if all you're offering is AirPods. So thankfully, everything was turned over to the police, including the pill by the ex-fiance, and the victim was granted a restraining order while the investigation was going on against Haley. So while the investigation was going on before she was arrested, Haley right here created a Facebook account using the victim's name and her images in like an effort to thwart the investigation somehow, but they didn't go into details about it. So while being interviewed by cops confront her and they're like, look, Haley, did you try to give this woman a pill without her consent to unalive her child? And Haley's like, no. And they're like, stop lying. And she's like, okay, I did it. And then they were like, did you make a fake Facebook using her name and her images to try to thwart our investigation? And she's like, absolutely not. They're like, Haley, are you lying again? And she's like, yeah, I'm lying. I did it. And according to authorities, Haley had no remorse. She did not care. She said, I could give two less what happens to that baby and that mama. I added that last part, but she didn't have no remorse. And Haley did all of this, every bit of this, ruined her whole life at 21 years old. Do you know what for? Some dang-a-lang. Allegedly for educational purposes only, because she used to be in a romantic relationship with that baby's father, and that was just ruining her whole vibe. And Haley here is being held in the Hernando County, Florida jail on a $150,000 bond, and she's still in there because I just looked. I hope you have a great Sunday, and I need y'all to remember this, ladies. There are 3.97 billion men in this world. Your ex he ain't worth it. Ladies and gentlemen, there's somebody smarter, better, and bigger out there for you, so don't ruin your life over a man or a woman, because there are plenty of fish in the sea. I know most of them got the anchor worms and the fish ick, but there are some in there still left that are pretty good. I mean, we can clean them off, right? So anyways, guys, I hope you have a great day, and I'll talk to you later. Bye.
TikTokers Who Did Terrible Things, Episode 40. Terry Kemper, otherwise known as Tear Bear on TikTok. Creator class type, social justice. Specialty, anti-bullying. Claim to fame, strap in and get ready, because this one's going to make you angry. So this is yet another one of those accounts that flew under the radar for quite some time, with a little over 2,500 followers as of just a few days ago. However, it was only within the last week or so that people began to realize just who this individual was behind closed doors. And believe me, it is not pretty. But to truly understand the gravity of the situation, we gotta take it back to 2003, when Kemper was first found guilty of SA on a child under the age of 5. That being said, what y'all have been told up to this point is only a fraction of the rabbit hole that is this case. Not only has he admitted to doing the very same thing to a 4-year-old, but he was also found guilty in a completely unrelated yet similar instance on a 13-year-old as well. The following series of events will clearly show you the danger this individual poses to the platform. You see, during Terry's time at Racine Correctional, or RCI for short, he got into a dispute with the warden over certain materials he wanted to indulge in. Essentially, Terry liked to read anime, hentai, and manga comics. However, in his words, only 15 to 20 out of the 50 publications he had been requesting were actually approved for him to view. Publications depicting the exploitation of children. Well, Terry had such an issue with this, he actually ended up taking it to court. The man literally fought the warden for what he felt was his right to view that content. Now, his main issue with the denial of those publications were that they were subject to multiple reviews. Think of it sort of like a tier system. Upon the content's initial review, a separate, more thorough review by the facility's licensed psychologist may be requested. The psychologist then cross-references this material with the inmate's profile, ensuring the content doesn't interfere with the treatment of that inmate or anyone else in the facility, thus making the process for poor little Terry of obtaining his fix take even longer. And let's just say, he didn't really like that. More so, during this time period, there were several instances in which more than 100 pounds of publications were removed from his cell. Yes, you heard that right. There was so much material removed, they had stopped counting and began measuring it by weight. At any rate, this content was then sent to his mother's house for safekeeping until his release. But it was also during this time period, Terry was advised to participate in level 4 SO treatment. However, he was booted prior to his first session for refusing to sign a particular segment of the paperwork, a section pertaining to material he would no longer be allowed to purchase. In addition to this, he was also found to be yet again in possession of illicit material. Well, upon his release onto extended supervision in 2011, within less than a year, he had violated the terms of his agreement by engaging in physically assaultive behavior. Not only had he reverted to viewing that illicit content, but he had also been in contact with 3 separate females through Facebook who were not yet of age. And this is where things begin to rapidly spiral out of control. October of 2012, Terry was forced to participate in a rehabilitative program, but just 2 months in, he completely stopped showing up. 2 months later, in December of that same year, he goes to prison once again for failing to do so. Then in March of 2015, Kemper was released on probation once again. However, in January of 2016, he was arrested for contacting one of his previous victims through Facebook. Now keep in mind, the entire time this has been going on, he has failed to complete any sort of treatment whatsoever. And in doing so, Terry firmly believed he should have been allowed to view that illicit material simply due to the fact he opted out of the treatment and hadn't signed the paperwork stating he wasn't allowed to. And throughout the entire course of just about every single one of his incarcerations, he has battled this over and over again. Now, this may be a bit of a stretch, but I think I speak for a great deal of us when I say, thankfully his claim was thrown out and he was continuously denied said material while behind bars. That being said, Kemper was officially released once again in 2020. Which leads us to what just happened over the past 24 hours. TikToker Tyler the Titan posted an extremely well put together video bringing the situation to light. I urge each and every one of you to check it out and give him the credit he deserves for doing so. It was at this point, larger creators such as Quinn Pratt, Tizian, and JD DeLay began to press the issue as well. That being said, although Kemper's main account was taken down, he has since created a backup, and word is, people in the background are currently working with TikTok to try and get it taken down. Lastly, although there is a dispute on whether or not Terry was a level 2 or level 3 SO, TikTok has a very strong policy against this type of behavior. It doesn't matter what level you are, your presence is quite simply not welcome on this platform. Friends and frenemies alike, I leave you with this.
You reveal your ignorance and your stupidity when you say that I'm level 3. I'm level 2.
I'll bet. Placing Terry on our list of
Do you not realize that it hurts me when I see gold?
Previously, would you agree that this is you? No? Okay. Is this your truck?
Definitely not.
No? Is that something you've ever driven? Dominic, you got taser? Stop! You stop! Stop!
Breaking news, Rudy Ferris has officially spoken out. Rudy spoke out and said for 8 long years his mother brainwashed him. She eventually convinced him that if he did not go along with her lies that he would get in trouble. He said, quote, "She never locked me in handcuffs or anything like that. I had free will to leave, it just felt like she was brainwashing me. It just kept confusing me the way she would manipulate me into saying you're going to get arrested." He goes on to say, quote, "She locked me in there pretty much mentally. She was my only parent, the only person I ever really had besides my brother. When I lost my brother, I didn't have anyone to teach me how to live or how to have the confidence to trust in myself. So I depended on my mom all my life. After he passed away, I wasn't able to love myself or anything anymore. I wasn't able to have someone like a father figure. You know, he was my brother, but I never had a dad. During the 8 long years, he rarely left his home other than to go to work with his mother. He even stated that officers pulled him over one time while he was driving his mother's car, but he used a different name. Additionally, according to Rudy, he said he was kept in isolation even when family members came over. He said, quote, I would have to listen to my family be happy and cheerful on the other side of the door, and I would be like, I want my family. I want people. I just want communication. It's like I lived in a prison. It's like I lived in a jail my whole life. I just want to be free. I just wanted to love somebody, have someone else that would actually love me. I struggled to understand my emotions. He continues by saying, quote, I used to have to sleep in her bed sometimes. Boundaries she would push or make me uncomfortable, and I would say stop, and she would say why, I didn't do anything wrong. When Rudy was asked if he considers himself a victim, he said, quote, yes, heavily. He finishes by saying, quote, I just want to live my life. I want to have a family, a car, a house. I just want to live my life and be happy. At this time, the Harris County District Attorney's Office has declined any charges but are continuing to investigate. I'll keep you guys updated. What do you think? Drop in the comments.
So what would happen now if someone from Croxteth walked in here?
I'd chop him around and chop his head off. And then I'd still carry on stabbing him even though his head went on his fucking neck.
But this feud that's going on, it isn't really about control of, say, a drugs trade, is it there? There's not that much money being made out of drugs in that area.
No, it's a street,
There was some time ago.
Yeah, there was at some times. That starts on and on.
Can you give me a reason for it dying down?
We've all been nicked, or shot.
People have been nicked, so the police...
Or shot, yeah.
Or shot. Have any of you ever been shot at?
Yeah.
How many times can you remember?
Few. I've been hit with one once as well.
Really?
Top of the road, top of my leg.
What hit you?
So it was just an angle, you know, I didn't even know what it was.
Was it a pistol or was it...
Yeah, pistol.
9mm or something
Yeah,
like
I think it was. It broke my leg onto all the bone. Broke my leg.
That hatred seems to run so strongly through you, but I can't really hear a justified reason for it.
Gangs, you know, that's what it is. It's gangs, two fucking different gangs, they both argue, you know what I mean? It's fucking like that everywhere in the world, isn't it, I'll be honest. The two gangs are always fighting.
And you don't see any end to it?
There won't be an end unless everyone fucking dies.
What did you think about the shooting of Rhys Jones?
Bad, horrible. Sick man, isn't it? He needs killing himself, the lad who's done it.
But wouldn't you say you're sitting by double standards if you go out and shoot people as well, lads?
No, we don't do it like that. No, I was with little kids playing.
Go up and do it face to face.
So if you wanted to get a gun, how would you go about getting one?
Phone someone,
Get it dropped off. Or mum pick it up.
And how long would that take?
5 minutes. Yeah, 5 minutes. It's back.
What would happen if one of you actually met a girl and she was from Croxteth? Would you be able to go out with her if you fancied her?
Probably.
Could like, but it'd be dodgy, you know what I mean? You couldn't trust her, could you?
Because you'd be slipping into their neighbourhood to see her. Does it happen?
That's happened.
Yeah, that's happened a few times. Been loads of setups before, we've always been on the phone to Bert and said like, yeah, we could see it. But they've known all the cocky lads or another thing. You get there and it's a big setup for
That was still inside. Well, just go into the setup and go to bed.
Right.
That was what it was when that happened, a setup.
To shoot that lad, yeah? And the bullet ricocheted and... Right.
Off there, man.
Talk to me about the police. How do the police behave in the area where you live?
Treat us like fucking bastards, basically. They just can't stand us. And they really hate us.
All right, just say you had the Home Secretary sitting in front of you and not me. What would you like to say to her in terms of change? The Home Secretary, the woman that's in charge of the police force.
Tell us fucking spit at
her. Fucking spit at her.
You'd spit at her?
Yeah.
But would you say anything to her?
Call us, come back.
Couldn't be much more to say, you know what I mean? Because they would not even listen to a word you'd have to say, would they?
What about...
Stop picking on the kids and make the streets better, you know what I mean? Does not make the streets better, you know what I mean? Coming out and giving kids nothing but out, it makes them worse, doesn't it? When it makes them make the police more, do more shit to them, do more shit to anyone else. Just sends them mad, or busy, he's jumping out on them constantly.
Well, last night we met some of the lads from Norris Green, aka the Nogsy crew. They certainly weren't unintelligent or without potential. That said, they still couldn't explain their murderous hatred of their counterparts in Croxteth. I wonder if the lads there will be any more enlightening. I wanted to hear what the lads from Croxteth had to say, But first, I had a very different visit to make. I've come here to meet a special police unit that was designed specifically to tackle gang and gun crime. They target individuals who pose a direct threat to the public. They're called the Matrix.
Mommy told me something a little girl should know. It's all about the devil.